Lucille Ball was standing in the middle of stage 9 at Desi Studios, cameras rolling, when a single whispered sentence from her assistant made her freeze mid-P performance, grabbed the edge of the kitchen counter, and collapsed to the soundstage floor in front of 300 horrified witnesses. What Desi Arnaz did in the next 2 minutes didn't just save their marriage, it exposed a secret so devastating that it could have ended the most beloved show in television history that very night. Crew members who were there later confirmed that without Desi's immediate decision to do something no Hollywood husband had ever done publicly before, Lucy might never have stepped foot on that set again, and the world would have lost I Love Lucy forever. This wasn't a heart attack. This wasn't a staged moment for ratings. This was the exact second when America's strongest woman heard a truth so shattering that her body simply gave out. The date was burned into the memory of everyone present. The episode they were filming seemed routine. Another Lucy scheme, another perfectly timed comedic disaster. The studio audience was laughing. The cameras were capturing every moment. Desi was across the stage with his orchestra, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Then, Lucy's assistant leaned in between takes and whispered 8 words that changed everything. The bank called. He's been hiding the truth. Lucy's face went white. Her script slipped from her trembling hands and hit the floor with a slap that echoed through the suddenly silent studio. She reached for the counter, that iconic heart-covered kitchen set that millions of Americans knew by heart. But her grip failed. And then Lucille Ball, the woman who had performed through broken ribs, pneumonia, and exhaustion without ever breaking character, crumpled to the floor of her own soundstage. Someone screamed, the cameras stopped rolling, and Desi Arnaz had to make a choice that would define everything. But to understand why those 8 words hit Lucy like a physical blow, we need to go back 3 hours earlier, to when everything still seemed perfect. It was a Thursday afternoon in 1955, and Stage 9 at Desi Studios was operating like a well-oiled machine. Lucille Ball, at 44 years old, wasn't just the star of the #1 television show in America. She was co-owner of the entire studio, a pioneer who had fought her way to the top of an industry that rarely gave women real power. I Love Lucy wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon. 40 million Americans tuned in every week. When Lucy gave birth to little Ricky on screen, more people watched that episode than watched the presidential inauguration. Behind it all was a partnership that seemed unbreakable. Lucy and Desi Arnaz had built an empire together. They owned the studio, controlled the creative decisions, and revolutionized how television was produced. To everyone watching, they were living proof that love and business could mix perfectly. That afternoon's filming schedule was typical. The episode featured Lucy trying to sneak into Ricky's nightclub act, physical comedy, perfectly timed chaos, the formula that had made them rich and famous. Rehearsals had gone smoothly all week. The chemistry between Lucy and Desi on camera was electric. The 300 people filling the studio audience bleachers were buzzing with excitement. Crew members moved efficiently through their pre-show routines. Everything was exactly as it should be. But Vivian Vance, Lucy's co-star and closest friend, had noticed something off. Lucy had been arriving at the studio earlier than usual for the past 2 weeks, staying later, asking questions about contracts, about finances, about business decisions she normally left to Desi. Her smile for the cameras was as bright as ever. The way Lucy's eyes would track Desi across the soundstage when he wasn't looking. "You okay?" Vivian had asked that morning in the dressing room. "Fine," Lucy had answered too quickly. "Just want to make sure everything's running smoothly." It was the answer of someone who suspected something was very wrong, but didn't want to believe it yet. 3 hours into filming, during a routine break between scenes, Lucy's worst suspicions were about to be confirmed in the most public way possible. What she was about to discover would shatter the illusion that millions of Americans believed in. If you want to see how one whispered truth can bring down even the strongest person, make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next will shock you. Vivian Vance noticed at first. She was standing near the craft services table when she saw Lucy's assistant, Margaret, approach her during the break. Margaret's face was pale, troubled. She leaned close to Lucy's ear and whispered something that made every muscle in Lucy's body go rigid. Lucy's hand, which had been casually holding her coffee cup, started trembling. The cup shook so violently that coffee sloshed over the rim, staining her Pula dress. But Lucy didn't seem to notice. Her face, which moments before had been animated and full of life, drained of all color instantly, like someone had physically struck her. "Lucy." Vivian rushed over, grabbing her friend's arm. "Lucy, what's wrong? What did she say?" Lucy didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on Desi across the soundstage. He was laughing with the bandleader, completely oblivious. The contrast was stark. Desi's easy confidence against Lucy's sudden fragility. She tried to speak, but her voice came out broken. The bank called. All this time he's been." Her breathing became rapid and shallow. She set her coffee cup down on a nearby table, but her hand was shaking so badly that she missed. The cup crashed to the floor, shattering. Several crew members turned to look. The studio audience in the bleachers assumed this was part of the show's preparation. Some even chuckled, thinking Lucy was doing one of her famous physical comedy bits. They had no idea they were watching something real and devastating unfold. "I need to talk to him," Lucy said, her voice hollow. "I need to talk to Desi right now." She started walking toward him, but her legs weren't cooperating. Her normally perfect posture was gone. She stumbled, reaching out to grab the kitchen counter of the set for support. "Lucy, wait." Vivian tried to steady her, but Lucy pulled away. "He lied to me," Lucy whispered loud enough now that nearby crew members could hear about everything, the money, the business, everything. And then Lucille Ball, the woman who had built a television empire on the strength of her will and talent, who had never missed a performance, collapsed against the iconic hard-covered kitchen set and slid to the floor, her legs simply giving out beneath her. The PA dress crumpled around her. Her carefully styled hair fell across her face, and America's queen of comedy lay on the soundstage floor, broken by a truth she could no longer carry. "Get Desi," someone screamed. "Get Desi over here now." Across the stage, Desi Arnaz's laughter died as he saw what was happening. And in that moment, he had to make a choice that would change everything. For a moment that felt like an eternity, but lasted only 3 seconds, Desi Arnaz stood frozen. His wife, his partner, the woman who had built an empire alongside him, was crumpled on the floor of their soundstage. The woman who never broke, who never showed weakness, was broken. 300 audience members sat in stunned silence, unsure if this was part of the show or something terribly real. 50 crew members stood motionless, and Desi knew, he absolutely knew that his secret had just destroyed her. Most men in that situation would have panicked and called for a doctor. Some would have tried to cover it up, to get Lucy behind closed doors before anyone understood what was really happening. Others would have shut down production and dealt with this crisis privately. But Desi Arnaz did something that everyone who was there said took more raw courage than anything they had ever witnessed in Hollywood. He chose the truth, complete unfiltered public truth, right there in front of everyone. Desi crossed the soundstage in seconds, dropping to his knees beside Lucy. "Get her some water," he commanded. "And someone call a doctor now. Everyone step back, please. Give her air." He cradled Lucy's head gently, checking her breathing and pulse. "Lucy, Mior, I'm here. I'm right here." Lucy's eyes fluttered open, filled with tears he'd never seen before. Not angry tears. "You lied to me," she whispered about all of it. "The bank called Desi. I know everything now." The crew members close enough to hear exchanged glances. Vivian Vance's hand went to her mouth. The studio audience leaned forward, finally understanding this was no performance. Desi looked down at Lucy, then up at the 300 faces watching him. Every instinct screamed at him to get Lucy out of there, to handle this privately, to protect their image. Instead, he made a different choice. "She's right," Desi said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I did lie about the finances, about the business decisions, about things I should have told her months ago." He carefully helped Lucy to the Ricardo living room couch on the set. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. Their real marriage crisis was playing out on their fictional marriage's furniture. Desi remained standing facing the crowd of witnesses and did something no Hollywood power couple had ever done. "I've been hiding the real financial state of Desilu Studios. For 6 months, I've been showing Lucy falsified reports, while I tried to fix the problems I created with bad investments and failed deals. I thought I was protecting her, protecting all of you. Your jobs, the show, everything we built. His voice cracked. But I was wrong. I was a coward, and Lucy deserved the truth from the beginning. The studio was so quiet, you could hear the overhead lights humming. What happened next became the most important conversation of their lives, and it changed how Hollywood would handle partnership, power, and honesty forever. Stay with us, because what Lucy says in response will redefine everything you thought you knew about their relationship. If you're feeling the story, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. What happened next was a masterclass in something Hollywood rarely showed in the 1950s. Raw, unscripted vulnerability between two people who had built everything together, and now had to decide if that foundation was strong enough to survive the truth. While still holding Lucy's hand, Desi did something extraordinary. He spoke to her with complete honesty, holding absolutely nothing back, with 300 witnesses hanging on every word. Lucy, I know you're furious with me. You have every right to be, but let me tell you exactly what I did and why. And then you can decide if you ever want to work with me again, as a business partner or as a husband. He took a breath, his fingers tightening around hers. Desilu was bleeding money. I made investments in 3 productions that completely failed. We lost almost $200,000 in 4 months. Every time you asked to see the books, I showed you fake numbers. I told you we were profitable when we were drowning. Gasps rippled through the crew. In 1955, that was a catastrophic amount. I couldn't admit that I had failed. That you trusted me with the business side, and I was destroying everything we built. I kept thinking I could fix it before you found out. I kept lying because my pride wouldn't let me admit I needed you. The silence in the studio was absolute. The audience that had come expecting laughter was witnessing something far more powerful, a marriage being torn apart and rebuilt simultaneously. Lucy finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. You thought lying to me was protecting me? Yes, Desi said, his voice breaking. And I was wrong, Desi. Lucy looked up at him, her expression shifting from hurt to something harder. I've known for 3 weeks. I hired my own accountant when the bank started calling me. I know about every failed deal, every lie you told. Desi's face went blank with shock. The money doesn't destroy me, Desi. We can fix money. What destroys me is that you shut me out. You made me a partner on paper, but treated me like a child who couldn't handle reality. She stood up from the couch, facing him now on equal ground. We built this together. You took that away when you decided I was too fragile for the truth. So, here's what happens now. We fix this together. All of it. The finances, the business, this marriage. No more secrets. We're equal partners in everything, or we're partners in nothing. Desi looked at her. This woman who had just been on the floor minutes ago, and was now standing before him, stronger than ever. Partners, he said, his voice raw with emotion, in everything. Transparency. Never again. Lucy held his gaze, then nodded once. We start tomorrow with the real accountants. Tonight, we finish this episode. The simple professionalism of that statement sent a wave of respect through everyone watching, but Hollywood wasn't done reacting to what had just happened on stage 9. By the next morning, every major newspaper in Los Angeles had heard whispers about what happened on the I Love Lucy soundstage. The gossip columns were buzzing with speculation. CBS executives held an emergency meeting expecting to hear that the show was finished, that the Aries marriage was over, that Desilu Studios would fold within months. But what happened next surprised everyone in the industry. William Paley, the president of CBS, released a statement that made front-page news. Desi and Lucille Aries have demonstrated what true partnership looks like. They have confronted their challenges with honesty and courage that is rare in any industry. I Love Lucy will continue with CBS's full support. We believe this show and this partnership is stronger than ever. Entertainment reporter Hedda Hopper, who had covered Hollywood for 3 decades, wrote, "What Desi Arnaz did on that soundstage, choosing brutal honesty over carefully maintained image, that's not how Hollywood operates, but perhaps it should be. If he hadn't found the courage to confess everything publicly with witnesses who could hold him accountable, we might have lost the greatest television program ever created." Behind closed doors, real changes were happening fast. Lucy and Desi restructured every agreement at Desilu Studios. Lucy's signature was now required on every financial document, every production deal, every business decision. They implemented mandatory monthly financial reviews with complete transparency. They also did something almost unheard of for a Hollywood couple in 1955. They started seeing a marriage counselor. Lucy insisted that if they were going to rebuild trust, they needed professional help to do it right. Their therapist, Dr. Catherine Benson, would later say, "What saved that marriage wasn't the confession itself. It was that Desi confessed publicly in front of hundreds of witnesses. There was no taking it back, no rewriting history. That level of accountability is extraordinarily rare, even today." 3 weeks after that devastating night, the world was watching to see what would happen when Lucy and Desi returned to stage 9. Keep watching, because what happened when they walked back onto that set will restore your faith in the power of honesty. Make sure you like this video if this story is hitting home for you. 3 weeks later, Stage 9 at Desi Lu Studios came back to life. Lucy and Desi walked onto the soundstage hand in hand, not as the picture-perfect couple that Hollywood had always sold to America, but as two people who had chosen honesty over image. When Lucy stepped into the lights, the entire crew, every cameraman, every stagehand, every musician stood and applauded. Not for her comedy, not for her star power, but for her courage. Desi addressed everyone gathered. "Thank you for giving us the space to fix what was broken. We're back, and we're stronger." The show continued for 5 more years. Desilu Productions thrived under their genuinely equal partnership, eventually producing Star Trek, Mission Impossible, and revolutionizing television production forever. Years later, in her autobiography, Lucy wrote, "The night I collapsed wasn't my weakest moment. It was when our partnership became real. Desi gave me the truth when it cost him everything. And that honesty built something stronger than any lie ever could." Desi, in his final interview, said simply, "I almost lost everything by trying to protect her from the truth. I learned Lucy didn't need protection. She needed partnership." If this story of choosing vulnerability over ego moved you, subscribe for more true stories about the moments when Hollywood showed us what real courage looks like. Share this with someone who needs to remember that honesty, even when it's painful, is always stronger than a comfortable lie. Sometimes the truth told publicly is the only truth that saves us.